Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Fran Baxter, and I'm the chairperson of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals, and I'm calling to order the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for February 23rd, 2021 at 6 p.m. to order. This open meeting of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Zoning Board of Appeals are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the ZBA to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to the Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. So thank you, everyone. Everyone is in attendance. And so it is past the hour of 6 o'clock, and the first item on the agenda is the continuation of the consideration of the petition for Brianna Ritaco for a variance for the operation of a kennel at a single-family residence at 8 Mill Street, map 54, parcel 54 in the downtown business zoning district. And I understand Ms. Ritaco, oh, there she is. She has been brought into the meeting by our host. All right, Ms. Ritaco, you are muted at the moment. So we left off at our last meeting that last meeting was related to an appeal of a cease and desist order that the building inspector had imposed. That has carried forward to today and has continued into a variance for a I'm drawing a blank, on a use that is not allowed in the district. And if you want to tell us what has happened, I understand you went to the Groundwater Advisory Council.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, hi. Yep, I did. I spoke with them last Thursday, and I did receive a letter from Mr. Litchfield today regarding the meeting and outlining the stipulations. They did approve me on the following I don't have the letter in front of me. I'm sorry about that. I can pull it up 1 second.
Okay. We all have copies of it too.
Oh, cool. All right. Yeah. So, yep, there was a couple stipulations that I had to adhere to, which I agreed to comply to. And yep, that was about it.
Okay. All right. So part of this, the continuation of the hearing is, as it was established that you had not yet been, the appeal was for running a kennel that it was not an allowed use. And now you are asking for a variance to allow the use. If you want to just give us a little bit, just a little recap or a summary of what it is that you're looking to do and why you think it should be allowed, even though you are in an area where it is not an allowed use.
Sure.
Just a summary.
Yeah, a summary. So, as I gave in long detail last time, I want to run a home dog sitting business out of my home. That would allow up to 7 dogs in my care that are not mine. At this time, I own 2 dogs that are mine, so it would be a total of 9 dogs on the premises that are allowed outside activity between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And I feel like it is not a detriment to the area that I currently live in due to the current noise that is already in the area and the doggy den that is maybe a max of 200 feet away from my location, as well as the other ongoing traffic, the fire station, the railroad, so on and so forth, that I outlined last time.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so open it up to the board for questions or comments. Okay, then I'm going to ask Fred if you want to just give us a little technical overview of what the the Groundwater Advisory Council has recommended and or requested.
Sure. Good evening. The Groundwater Committee was able to meet last week on Thursday and review the application with Ms. Furtado. You all have a copy of the letter. Do you want me to go through it line by line? I'd be happy to. The committee found that the expansion of the non-conforming use would be not more detrimental to the groundwater supply, provided she met the following comments and offer them as to you for conditions if you like. The first thing is that the applicant had not submitted items 1 through 5 that are required with every special permit. Most do not really apply to her. The main concern was the list and quantity of chemicals that might be used in her business that are beyond normal household use. She did supply a letter today indicating that that would not be the case, that to be nothing more than normal household use. So we do have that for the file.
Okay.
There was a lot of discussion about the pet waste. At the time that the groundwater committee met, I was under the impression from talking to our folks at Wheelabrator that this pet waste would not be allowed to go in the weekly trash, but there was some discrepancy in where they were looking at that rule, and I encouraged Ms. Furtado to reach out to Wheelabrator and to the DEP and get confirmation, which she did get today, that entitles her to collect the trash daily as required by the committee and get rid of it, dispose of it offsite weekly with her weekly trash. And that is consistent with what Wheelabrator and DEP will allow. Again, that's in the letter that she presented today, her agreement with that. The one condition that talks about quality control on any contamination to the water was the pet urine, difficult to capture. So what I recommended and the committee agreed to was a soil test prior to the operation of the property as a kennel to determine the pH level, the acidity of the soil, and then again 6 months after the operation to see if the dogs contained in that area would have an impact on the acidity, and then if it did change the acidic value of the property, then she would be required to put some lime down to enough to offset the balance, bring it back to the way it was. And again, she's agreed to do that. We wanted to make sure that the applicant is held to her request for no more than 7 dogs beyond what is currently licensed for her property. And then I also had a couple of comments of my own from an engineering standpoint. One was that the application proposes to fence the property on 4 sides, not the entire property, but 4 sides so that the area could be contained for the dogs. We just wanted to make sure that was in any approval so that it could be confirmed that that was done so the dogs are not able to run loose. And the other thing was that she indicated in her application that there would be no employees and there'd be no real parking requirement. People either drop off the dog or she picks them up, and they get picked up by appointment only. And she has the ability through permission from her neighbor to have flow through traffic from her property out onto Pierce Street. And so we recommended that that be made a condition, that there be no parking on site, there be no backing out into either Pierce or Mill Street to avoid any traffic problems. There is a bit of traffic on Pierce Street and the fire station is down the street. So it's a concern. It's always a concern with people backing out of a small street like that. You get kind of comfortable. So a condition that be in there, as well as something that kind of documents the letter that came from the abutter agreeing to the pass-through traffic should be referenced in your decision, should you decide to approve.
Thank you, Fred.
Okay.
Okay. Back to the, Kathy, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I'm all set. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, members of the board.
Yeah,
Paul?
Madam Chair.
Oh, Paul.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Paul. Oh, sorry. So I just want to clarify that this is both an appeal of Bob's letter, but also applying for a variance and a special permit. So there's three.
I don't believe it's a special permit. I think it's just a, okay.
So
it's-
I
Yes,
guess
it's the
my-
appeal, right. It's the,
Yep.
it's the continuation of the appeal on the cease and desist order. There's a variance for a non-conforming use, which is the kennel. And then the special, I'm sorry, the special permit is related to the groundwater advisory. Kathy, is that right?
Yes, that
Sorry,
there would,
okay,
yep, there is a special permit that, well, last time when we talked about it, groundwater hadn't been applied for, so there,
okay,
but the way we advertise it, you can add in permits as
okay,
opposed to having to re-advertise, so,
okay.
so
All right,
Paul's
so-
correct with the three.
All right,
The
so I
letter-
apologize. I just said variance at the beginning. So yes, Paul. All right, so it is a three-part. Oh,
Yep.
Fred
The
wants to
letter-
clarify.
The letter that I supplied indicates the section of the groundwater portion of the zoning bylaw that the special permit is required from. It's a special permit, but not a site plan special permit.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to confirm
Oh.
the three areas that we should be looking at. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Brad.
Yes, so I'm just looking at my notes from last month, so forgive me
Okay.
if I'm reiterating stuff we discussed. My notes say that there's going to be no street walking. Can you confirm that, Ms. Furtado?
Confirmed.
Okay, so as Mr. Federico, not Mr. Mr. Litchfield had said, they're going to stay within your property lines. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so two of your own dogs, 9 dogs total, so 7 dogs. I believe you had said they usually just sleep in the house. If you have all 9 dogs in the house, are they all going to be sleeping in your home and not anywhere outside?
I don't really intend to have that many ever stay the night. I think the max probably would be 4 to spend the night. The 9 would probably be more of the daytime hours. But yes, they would be sleeping in my house. I've had a few spend the night currently, and they've all slept in different arrangements. I usually do whatever the dog feels comfortable with. So some have slept in their home crates that they've brought for the visit. Some have slept on my bedroom floor next to my bed. It's really whatever they're used to at home. That's the business model, kind of home away from home type situation. That's kind of why I want to keep the numbers small too for overnight, so they can still feel comfortable enough where they're not in a pack.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So that does confirm that no one be sleeping overnight outside.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Other members of the board? Any questions for the applicant related to the appeal, the variance for use, or the special permit for groundwater? Okay, all right, this is a public hearing, so if there are attendees in the audience, if anyone wishes to speak, if you could raise your hand and you will be acknowledged and able to speak. Okay. There's one person on the phone. I don't know whether you can raise your hand, so I'm just going to allow you to talk in case you wanted to. All right,
For
so-
phones, they can dial *9, and that will
Okay.
activate the raise your hand feature.
Okay, well, I just allowed the 774 number to speak if they wanted to, because I wasn't sure about the hand. Okay. All right, so I will disable the talking
The
and,
phone was on mute. I'm not sure if they also have to hit a star key to unmute themselves.
So it's *9 to raise your hand, and then I believe it's *6 to unmute. So if the phone number wishes to speak, you can dial *9, and then I can give you permission to speak again.
well, that was me allowing them to talk, so I'm going to
Yeah.
assume they do not. So, okay. So there's no one in the audience that wishes to speak. Ms. Ritako, do you have anything further you'd like to say before I entertain a motion to close the hearing?
No, but thank you for your time today.
Okay.
I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
Okay, that's a motion by Mark, a second by Dick. All those in favor, Mark,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and Fran, aye. Okay, so that closes the hearing. We will have a discussion now, Ms. Ritako, and make a decision. Okay. Okay, all right, so, all right. Dick,
I just want to say, I think this is a legitimate business in that area, zone business, and the Doggy Den is right around the corner, less than 200 feet away. Yeah, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't go along with this.
all right. If let's take each piece separately. I think because I think we have to make decisions on each of them. So if we start with the appeal, which this is going to be the circular discussion that we had last time. The appeal was on a cease and desist of a perceived business based on research done by our zoning enforcement officer that a business was being run. There was a cease and desist order filed, and the resident appealed that decision. So now we have to vote on whether we're going to uphold the appeal or whether we're going to agree with the resident that there was no business and therefore the appeal was inappropriate, or somewhere in between based on town council's interpretation of that.
I
Go ahead, Mark.
I was almost saying if you wanted to go in the reverse order, because if we approve this as a thing, it seems to me that the appeal then kind of disappears because we're not really saying that it's, we've more or less given permission to it. So the appeal, I think by default goes away. I hate to start the meeting by telling Bob no. Or yes, and yeah.
All right, Brad, your thoughts?
Yeah, so the way I was, looking at my notes and everything, she currently, the applicant currently has 3 dogs. And that is, according to our bylaws, that's the max. So, I mean, anything more than that is in violation. But she had mentioned last month, oh, sorry, anyone?
I was gonna say, I think your own dogs don't count towards being a kennel.
Correct. No, she's, so my notes, so obviously that was a month ago. So my notes made perfect sense last month. I'm looking at them a month later. 3 dogs today, right. It doesn't include her own dogs. So I can't remember if she has 2 dogs. I remember that, but then did she have 3 dogs on top of that or 5 dogs? So that's Bob. Do you remember what the,
I believe she had 3 of her own dogs.
okay.
And I think the bylaw says a kennel or doggy daycare or what have you, I think is in excess of 3 dogs. Okay, that are not owned by the property owner.
Okay.
So it's not considered a business or a kennel if she has 3 of her own and 3 of a paying customer's dog. Once you get to that 4th animal, it's not owned by her. That's when these regulations step in.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, according to my notes, and mea culpa for not asking us, she said she had 2 of her own dogs and then 3 dogs. I can't remember if it was 2 plus 1 dog that wasn't hers, or if it's 2 of her own dogs plus 3 other dogs, because 3 is the limit of dogs you don't own.
Right.
So 5.
Right.
I mean, she could have 10 dogs, of her own, and then 3 dogs that don't belong to her.
If she's running a business, yes. If
Yeah,
she's just having friends over for a sleepover, it doesn't matter.
right. So I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I mean the appeal. Sorry, I'm just kind of thinking out loud. I mean, I just didn't think she was in violation, but she wanted more dogs. Obviously, that triggers the variance, right? Fran?
Well, I think she wants to run a business. So now
Yeah.
that we actually have a copy of the actual cease and desist order, so I'm going to disagree with Mark and just
Okay.
ask if on the original appeal, the appeal was for a complaint of a dog daycare or kennel being operated. And the resident was told that's in violation of the zoning bylaw, so stop.
Okay.
She then came to us last month and said, but I wasn't running one. So therefore, based on that, should the cease and desist order be vacated? On the fact that she is currently not running, has she proven to us that she is not currently running a dog kennel or dog daycare? And therefore we should vacate the appeal. All right, while you're thinking about that, Bob.
Just a matter of point. I had when I received the complaint about the dog daycare business,
Mhm.
I was also pointed to a Facebook web page, if you will, that talks about the business that she wishes to have. And if I remember right, and I think it's in the package somewhere, where her advertisement spoke about multiple dogs over 3. I think it was something on the lines of 7 dogs that she can have at one time. So she was advertising that as a business.
Okay.
That was part of the complaint.
Okay,
And that's the reason why I wrote the cease and desist. Okay.
okay, all right.
I'm assuming she published it.
Mhm.
I was not able to actually see more than 3 dogs not owned by her, but I was able to see that the intent that she had the business up and running and was advertising for 7
Okay.
dogs.
All right, so then if we go back to, at this moment, we can uphold Bob's cease and desist, and
Right.
until or if she gets a variance, she cannot run that business. So we can vote to uphold the appeal, uphold Bob's decision to cease and desist any dog kennel or dog daycare on the premises until or if a variance and special permit is granted. And it's fine, Mark, to Mark's point, if that ends up happening later on, but this way here
Right.
we go in the sequence of events.
Well, and to your point, there's also several physical changes that have to be made to the property to make it suitable for this operation of it, so that in the meantime, having a cease and desist says, don't jump the gun, essentially. So, okay.
All right, so to those points.
I would move that we uphold Bob's issuance of a cease and desist and not overrule him at this time.
Okay. So that was a motion?
Second.
Okay, all right, and that was Paul all right, so Mark made the motion, Paul made the seconded. All those in favor of upholding the cease and desist order? Mark,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Dick?
Nay.
All right, and Fran, aye. Okay, so at the moment, the cease and desist order is in place and no business is allowed on that property at this moment. Now we move on to the variance for a non-conforming use on the property and the special permit for groundwater protection.
Okay. My only issue, I'm not a dog person. I don't own a dog. Yes, you can castigate me for it. But I just don't know if this is enough property for that. You know, say I'm not even saying that she'll have the 9 dogs there, whatever, full time. But if 5 dogs are running around on this property, does it go to help, or is this enough land for them to run around and be happy? And I will fully let anybody who is a dog person tell me one way or another on that. That I guess is my key piece of advice from the rest of the board.
Okay. Anyone else? Paul?
I guess my my initial thought on this is that the number of dogs for the size of the lot and the size of the house just doesn't really compute for me. I think having 9 dogs on what is roughly a quarter of an acre of property in a densely populated area where, you know, you're near other townhomes and condos where, you know, we heard from neighbors last month that, you know, a lot of people are working more from home, and that number of dogs just is a concern for me. Given that the property owner does own dogs themselves, plus, you know, the bylaws allow up to 3 dogs currently. I think anything more than that, in my estimation, would be excessive.
Thank you.
How does the doggy den operate then? Do they have individual cages?
It's fully indoors, as far as I know. I mean, obviously it's bigger than a house, but I don't believe they do anything outside.
Okay.
I mean, I've walked by it, but.
Okay.
Brad or Leslie?
Yeah. I mean,
Concern- Oh, good.
oh, go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, I'm also concerned. It's a lot of dogs in a fairly small area. I would have concerns as well, especially with the number maybe staying overnight.
Yeah, I mean, and just to add to that too, it's like, I mean, it's not allowed in this area or most of town, and that this area in particular, it's not the greatest as far as traffic. I know the doggy den is right around the corner, but they are on a main road at an intersection. I mean, this is in a neighborhood. I'm just looking at Google Maps right now, and I think our bylaws are in place for a specific reason, and I think we should uphold our bylaws and what our zoning enforcement officer has already stated.
And I have to say that the piece of what Brad just said is where I'm leaning, in that when we zoned that as a downtown, an area that kennels or dog daycare were not an allowed use, we at some point have to really be very conservative in our non-conforming use variances, because they're there for a reason, right? Because there's a certain feeling we want in the different parts of town. And in this instance, it is a small piece of property that would have a significantly large, relatively speaking, amount of dogs. And I don't see the value of it to the town outweighing what could be the detriment on a short block where it's not an allowed use. Dick?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I would just like to say I was sitting on this board when the doggy den came to the center of town, and many of these issues were brought up at that time. And although I was an alternate and didn't vote on it at the time, you know, the board passed it, and it's been a good business in the center of town. And I think the center of town is a good place for this type of business. It's you know, central. It's its own business. We want business in the business zone. We've had people come forward before the board to try and put dog businesses in residential areas, and I don't think they belong there. I think they belong in the business district, and we got to put them somewhere. If they don't belong in the business district, where would they belong? And there's probably thousands of dogs in town that are licensed, that owners have, and they need a place to daycare or, you know, some kind of business that handles their dogs. And we have County Park. We have hundreds of people go there every day and use that park, whether they're from town or out of town. But I mean, there is a need for this type of business, and where else would you put it except the business district? That's my side.
Oh, I think you make valid points. I think then my default would be it's a small piece of property. It is a home-based business. It's not a structure built for the purpose of housing and entertaining and caring for animals. It's a small residential home on a small residential piece of property.
But it's a very small business too. I mean,
Yeah,
7 dogs isn't a lot of dogs. I mean, they could be small dogs which take up no room at all.
Mhm. It's
We'll have
true.
a volume restrictions on the dogs.
Yeah,
You only get.
Restrictions on the weight of the dogs.
I will say that if the major problem anticipated with this is the noise of the dogs, then there's certainly the whole idea that no, they can't create the noise. I mean, just because we give them a permit to be a dog kennel essentially, doesn't mean that we let them make all the noise they want. They can still be shut down or cease and desist because they're a noise nuisance.
Well,
So
but
she does have to control that aspect of it, of her business.
Well, actually, the noise doesn't concern me because dogs unleashed don't tend to bark. I mean, if they're
Okay.
free, I mean, it's one dog on a leash and another one free, you're going to get a fight. But I mean, they're not, unless you have beagles. Beagles are barkers. But I mean, I don't see the noise as an issue. I want to be respectful of the zoning and why we don't want kennels and dog. Was it dog care, kennels, or I'm gonna go back to because if we don't, is this truly a boarding, holding, daycare, overnight, or training of animals? I mean, it's a small version of that, but it is that. And that's what we're
Yeah.
saying is not allowed, right? Boarding, holding, daycare, overnight stays, or training of animals are not the property of the owner. And if it's more than 3, it's considered,
Okay.
right? So it does meet the definition of something that we said is not allowed. It's not big, but it's still big enough.
Mm-hmm.
So what say the board?
Okay. I'd say we're down to a vote.
Okay. Well, let's hear a motion. Well,
That
we've already motioned on the appeal, so we were
Right.
past that.
one's past that.
Right. So this is
so
a variance with a
variance,
special permit, a
yeah.
variance with a special permit for groundwater protection.
So I motion for a special permit for groundwater protection and a variance for the property at 8 Mill Street to allow the use of operation of a kennel consisting of up to 7 dogs and with the restrictions delineated in the letter from the groundwater board.
Thank you, Mark. That's
Second,
a motion from Mark, a second from Dick. So roll call vote. Mark,
Nay.
Dick,
aye.
Brad,
Nay.
Paul,
No.
and Fran, no. Okay. I just think it's interesting how 4 out of the 5 of us looked up before we made a vote. I'm not exactly sure what you were looking for.
Looking for a son.
There you go. All right, well, thank you. Okay. The next on our agenda is the 2021 zoning amendments. Kathy, do you have an update? I don't know if anyone saw, the planning board is still in the massaging of the detail of the zoning bylaws. I did send them a summary of our conversation at our last meeting. Kerry did send me a letter back saying that she received it and thanked me for it, but I did not hear any reference to it at their most recent meeting. So I'm not, if Kathy, you want to give us everyone who didn't actually watch the meeting, and give them a recap of where we stand on those zoning amendments?
Sure. I've submitted the majority of the articles. I think there's 8 or 9. So those have been submitted to the town administrator for inclusion on the warrant. And then there's a couple spots that we reserved because I haven't finished one of the articles regarding the craft brewery, and town council is working on language for the non-conforming section of the bylaw. So within the next day or so, I will have, based on comments from the planning board at their last meeting, I'll have finalized the language, and I'll send that packet out to both boards, the planning board, of course, and then the zoning board of appeals. And at the next planning board meeting, March 2nd, they've got quite a full agenda, but I believe they want to finalize language on the 2nd. I have not advertised for the hearing yet, as that hearing won't be until the beginning of April. Let me just look up the date if anyone is curious. So the hearing would start on April 6th at the planning board meeting. And then I would assume, as it usually is, it's continued to the second meeting. And even though right now, town meeting is always scheduled for the 4th Monday, I think everyone anticipates that it won't be happening that Monday evening, because that would require it to be inside, and that's not allowed per the COVID regulations. And I doubt that everyone's going to be vaccinated by the end of April. It would be nice, but anyways, so the hearing will start in April. Whether or not the planning board kind of carries over the discussion to the 16th, but I think I have to have it I think the language has to be finalized by then. And so again, what I'll do is I'll just send out the language as it would appear in the warrant over the next couple of days.
Okay, thank you. And for anyone that, if you don't attend the planning board meetings as they have developed these, they are still moving forward, even on the ones that we weren't sure what the intent was. And I know that Kerry and Amy both attended the Groundwater Advisory Council meeting this week to try to explain what they were trying to accomplish with the zoning amendment that changes groundwater special permit to include all the special permit criteria for site plan approvals regardless of groundwater. That seems to be the one that is the most complex and questionable. But educate yourself on it and feel like either as a board we can give them input during the public hearing and or individuals at the public hearing, and then of course a town meeting whenever that occurs in the nice weather. Kathy, anything else for us?
The only other thing that I wanted to ask everyone about is, this doesn't have anything to do with zoning, Fran. Did you mean zoning? Do I have anything else?
All right, so two things before we go to non-zoning. So one, there is an applicant that at 399 Hudson Street who was already before us and the planning board, but changed developers somewhere along the line. So they do need, and therefore changed the design and or the structure of the duplex that they were planning at 399
Okay,
Hudson.
yeah.
So they need to come before us for an amendment. They are begging us to have an April meeting so that they don't have to wait till May to move forward. Since we don't have town meeting in April, we could actually meet, and I just need to know whether you all would be comfortable posting a meeting for early, the second week of April, if that's good for people's schedules, so that this person can be heard.
So I looked at the calendar just to give people a possible date. I looked at the town calendar to see if any of the licenses had been reserved. Because we only have one webinar license, and when you hold a public hearing, we have to use the webinar license. So it looks like right now that the license is available on the 14th of April, which is a Wednesday. And then it also looks like it's available on the 21st and the 22nd, which is the following week. I have planning board that week, so I selfishly would like to just not have two land use meetings that week, but I can.
How does the 14th look for people?
I can certainly do it.
All right, giving Kathy a break, how does the 14th look for at least 4 other people besides myself?
My taxes should be in, so I'm okay.
Kathy, does it have, I mean, it's a whole new application though, so it doesn't, we don't have to be concerned about who was there for the initial, right?
Correct. It would be, I mean, basically what, how Bob and I discussed it today was that they, and as people have done in the past, they would file, they would file an application, but they would be asking to amend, their original decision. Because what happened here, or, where it gets a little tricky, is that they had to go to the design review committee. So the design review committee, specifically approved a certain set of plans, and then those plans and the design review committee comments were incorporated into the ZBA's decision and the planning board's decision, which we're changing at town meeting so that they only have to go to one board. But right now you have to go to 2 boards. So anyways, because the design review specifically, as they should have, referenced a specific set of plans, and then that was then incorporated into both boards' decisions, it's not anything that we can do in-house. I mean, we sometimes do a lot of, an adjustments with a detention structure or a drainage structure, or, a parking space gets moved or something. And, we handle that in-house. We don't send someone back to the board. But this is going to have to go back to the boards because the actual decisions are going to change.
Thank you. All right. Paul, Brad, or Dick, do you have any reason to think that April 14th might not be good for you?
14th's fine with me.
Okay.
The 14th is fine with me too. I think school vacation is the next week anyway, so that works.
Okay. All right. So Kathy, then the 14th at 6 o'clock, if that works for you.
Sure. Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll let the applicant know. And I mean, who knows? In the meantime, maybe they're going to go back to the old design, the original design, but there's something territorial happening there. So most likely you will be meeting on the 14th, but I'll let you know, obviously, if it's not necessary, so you can take it off your calendar.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then the only other thing, I'd just like to ask for some comment or feedback. One of the things that I've realized that I want to say in the past 6 to 9 months, we have had 4 different appeals come before us, which I know that Dick and Mark have been here longer than I, but I think that that's a high number. 2 of them were disagreements with Bob's interpretation of the zoning, and 2 were for cease and desist. And I feel like they caused us a little bit of going round in circles, trying to understand what our role was, what our responsibilities, and what the outcomes of, or the consequences of our decisions might be. So I wanted to see, beside definitely having a copy of the cease and desist order in front of us before we actually have the hearing, and or having maybe something in writing, not that I want to put Bob on the spot, but when somebody disagrees with his interpretation of the bylaws in the past, I feel like they've then ask for a variance or a special permit. But to just say, no, I just disagree with him and I'm appealing his decision. And what would you like to have in front of you before we actually start having this conversation in public to understand our responsibility and role when somebody's just appealing his decisions or his interpretation of our bylaws? I mean, definitely a copy of the cease and desist. Do we want like letters like what Fred writes up for groundwater, or technical reviews by planning board where they tell us up front what they think?
I mean, Madam Chair, I mean,
Yes.
I think the cease and desist, I think will give us Bob's interpretation of why, he
Mhm.
in one way or the other.
Right.
That'll give us some background.
Right. So
and-
copies of that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
I mean, other than that, I mean, I think that would be really helpful because, yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. The last 4, 5, 6 months, it's been
Yeah,
a lot of those.
Right. Right. Well, the two cease and desist, we were like, well, I mean, again, the cement truck, the cement business. Okay. Well, he said, stop the cement business. I didn't have a cement business. So then we say, okay, then we're going to vacate. And then can I now have a cement business? It's like, I mean, it was uncertain, right? We were uncertain. And
Yeah.
town council, what he provided us in writing is that we can say, no, we agree with Bob, but you still have to do X, Y, and Z, or we disagree with the cease and desist, but you still have to do X, Y, and Z. So it's
Okay.
not just a yay or a nay or
Mhm.
as far as that goes. But I mean, I guess like the timeline of the back and forth would have been helpful to me to understand better, with the one most recently on Hamilton Street. I think it was Hamilton.
Yeah.
But just a little
Yeah.
more upfront loading before we have to have a meeting.
Yeah,
I-
sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, I guess my only other point is that I'd like to know, or have it well handled, that we structure it in an affirmative that we're overruling him, and that, and what level of votes do we have to have? In other words, it shouldn't be, oh, it failed because, you know what I mean? We have
Right.
to agree on the direction we're going and how many votes we need to get there.
Right, right.
And
Right.
I've tried to maintain that, but I'm not always sure I'm clear on it.
It's true. Right, because unless it's unanimous, we're not really sure. Did we all just agree to do it, or did we all just agree not to do it?
Well, and if it's a 3-2 vote,
Which direction?
way does it go?
Right. Right. Okay. All right. So, anything else? I guess some of this is just Bob, us asking you to help us. Dick?
Yeah, I've got whatever formal documentation I've sent between my office and the person who's the subject of the complaint. What I'll do is I will, if it gets to the point of an appeal,
Mhm.
I'll set up a timeline. I'll make sure you have my official documentations,
Okay.
and I'll add whatever background information I have on it that leads up to me writing the cease and desist.
Okay. Perfect.
Just keep in mind, in terms of the interpretations for zoning,
Mhm.
it's the zoning interpretation. It's my opinion. It's not the rule or guide. Typically a zoning interpretation goes with the package to either the ZBA or the planning board, and it's basically a document that says this is how I see it. And hopefully it's a guide to the applicant, so that if they do want to get that project through, this is kind of the roadmap you need. It's subject to change at any time, because a lot of these things involve groundwater, conservation, earthwork, a bunch of other boards. So it's sometimes it's a moving target. It's not always cut and dried. That's why it's intentionally left fluid, and that it's a suggestion from my part to the boards. The boards can decide to follow that suggestion, change it, not follow it at all. It's it doesn't bother me either way.
No, but those aren't the problem was we had two people appeal your opinion,
Mhm.
and they appealed it to us, right?
Right.
So now we have to either support your opinion
Mhm.
or disagree with your opinion.
Right.
So in those instances, I guess that there has to be a little bit more definition so we know what we're actually either, what we're working with, I guess.
Mhm. Okay. Yep. I think between, the opinion and whatever background information I have that leads up to it,
Mhm.
I'll be sure to include it.
Yeah. Fabulous.
No
Dick,
problem.
Okay. Anyone else? Dick?
Madam Chairman,
Yeah.
I just agree with what Bob just offered, the cease and desist, we really have to have that
Yeah.
as a minimum, and then going forward, any notes he has, and also any police reports. We find out that, in this last one, we had the Northborough Police were involved, and they're running
Right.
cars, and they're answering calls to this
Right.
location over
Right.
these altercations. And I think any documents or any material that's in the hands of town officials should
Mhm.
be before us if that's the issue.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. All right. Anyone else have anything else? Oh, Kathy just had one non-zoning board something. Uh-oh, looks like she forgot.
No, I actually think as I'm looking at my notes, I think the only non-zoning item I had was about, would you consider having a meeting in April?
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
thank you.
Oh, okay.
No, so that's, other than that, I don't have anything.
You got it. Okay. Anyone else? All right, so Leslie, will you be with us in April, or should we say, Leslie has opted not to continue, not to get reappointed as an alternate for next year. So I'm not sure whether, is that as of April or not till May? I don't know.
Yeah, my term ends at the end of April, so I'm happy to stay on if you would like me
Oh.
to. I'm happy
Okay,
to.
so you'll be here for April. Okay,
I'm planning to, yeah.
okay. All right, then I'll just make
April.
sure we'll order the flowers and balloons for April.
Chunky Monkey ice cream, please. Ben and Jerry's.
You got it. Okay. All right. If there's nothing else,
Motion to adjourn?
okay.
Second?
Okay, that was Dick making a motion and Brad seconding. All those in favor, Dick,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.